One of the most impactful social skills in my life so far has been frame control. This is a concept that not a lot of people know about, but is incredibly, incredibly crucial to your success in either sales, interpersonal relationships, persuasion. When people try to come at you and try to speak negatively about you or try to get under your skin, this specific topic, frame control, is crucial for being able to psychologically dismantle what they're doing and win the interaction, okay? Dominate the interaction, some may say, okay? Now, I am going to reference the book Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff, and that's a great book. I think you should read it. I would actually listen to it on Audible, but I will put that in the description. I will put that in the affiliate link. Here's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Jesus. We're talking about how Jesus displayed social skills, how he displayed frame control, and how he used this to dominate his opponents every single time. How he used it to persuade people. Okay, this is something I've never heard talked about, but I am aware of. This is what he's doing. This is why he appears so intelligent. He's not just intelligent cognitively, he is intelligent socially, okay? And let me just first preface this by saying, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or what your objective beliefs about reality are. This is a story out of a book. And in that book, there is a character. And the character is what I'm using to explain to you this concept, okay? You don't have to believe this story to be real. I don't care if you do or not. It's literally about what he is doing, okay? We're using this character because this character is the best at it, okay? He is the best at it, and I'm going to explain to you what he's doing in a few key examples here. So first off, frame control, what that is when someone comes up to you with a frame is their perception of reality. A frame is a thought that they are trying to imprint or force upon you, okay? And oftentimes, let's just use a perfect example here. I'm trying to sell a product and the client goes, well, that just seems a little too expensive, or that's too much, or wow, that's an expensive price. A lot of other contractors are really a lot cheaper than that, okay? What they're doing is they're taking that idea of your price is too expensive and they're trying to persuade or convince you that that price is too expensive, okay? Now, there's ways that you can combat this, okay? But basically, in these scenarios, and a lot of these scenarios, what's happening is they don't like Jesus, so they're trying to get him to slip up and say something stupid so they can kill him or whatever, okay? They're trying to psychologically manipulate him. So this is key for if you're dealing with a narcissistic person or something like that. They are trying to, let's just say they're narcissist and they're trying to gaslight Jesus, okay? That's what is happening in this scenario, okay? There are multiple different frames that you can use in frame control. Think of it like rock, paper, and scissors. Scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, okay? So when a certain frame comes out, a power frame is beaten by an intrigue frame, okay? A power frame could be beaten by an analyst frame. An analyst frame could be beaten by a prize frame. Is so to speak. Now there are different things here. You know, an analyst frame could be beaten by a time frame or vice versa. Okay, so I'm going to kind of walk you through what these different frames are, how Jesus used them, and then how you can use those in your own life. Okay, so the first one we have. The Pharisees are basically trying to get Jesus to talk about is he the Messiah? They're trying to just get him to say, I'm the Messiah, so they can say blasphemy and kill him, is my understanding of that. You can read it for yourself, Matthew 21. I put verses all on there. But basically, they are trying to get him to say, just defend himself, okay? They're trying to get him to defend himself, okay? So they have a power frame, okay? And the power frame is, we don't believe you. you have to defend yourself. Imagine this, you're in a court of law like a judge. Hey man, you need to defend yourself. Why did you do that crime? Okay? So what happens here in this specific scenario, this is the power frame where Jesus takes back the power and says, no, I'm the one who asked the questions here, not you. I am the authority here. I am the powerful person, okay? So he basically responds, and this is a crucial, crucial thing in interpersonal relationships. When somebody asks you a question, you can respond. You do not have to answer that question, okay? When somebody asks you a question, you are not obligated to answer that question. I want you to write that down. When somebody asks you a question, you are not obligated to answer the question, okay? There is no moral rule. You are not obligated to answer the question, okay? And Jesus is proof of this right here. What he's going to do is he's going to turn around and ask them a question. And he basically says, well, who do you think, John the Baptist is? Which is another character, and you can read more about that. But basically, John the Baptist is saying that Jesus is the Messiah. And the guys accept his frame, they accept Jesus's frame, and they say, they think about it. If we say he's not, then we're going to get ridiculed by the people. But if we say he is, then Jesus is going to be right. And it's a lose-lose situation here. He power framed them, and they lost, okay? And so what happens is they say, we don't know. And then Jesus once again reinforces the power frame and says, hey, if you're not going to answer the question, then I'm not answering your question. And that's how he does that, okay? So oftentimes you got to be nice to people is what people teach you. That's just not true. You can use a power frame. Jesus, who is often seen as a moral figure, does use this where he just says, look, I'm the boss here, and I'm going to demonstrate to you that I'm the boss, okay? I'm the one with the power, not you, okay? So that is one thing. When somebody comes up to you and tries to use a power frame and accuse you of something, if you defend, you lose. You give them the power. If you stop and are above the frame and just ask them a question, that's interesting. Like, what makes you say that? You're the one who's in the power, okay? You're the one who controls the way the interaction goes, the speed and the energy of the interaction. This is a power frame. All right, this is crucial, especially if you're dealing with a very loud, obnoxious, dominating person. You can out-power frame them just by being smarter than them, okay? Power frame. Being the one who controls the interaction, all right? Number 2, intrigue frame, one of my favorites, okay? This works really good against the power frame or something like that, okay? So what happens in this scenario, and you can read about this in John 6:32, I am the bread of life, Jesus says. So basically after he feeds 5,000 people with some bread and loaves and fish or something, he keeps going, and this crowd of people doesn't care about listening to what he says. All they care about is the food that he's going to give them, and he's trying to give them spiritual food, and they want physical food. They just want free food, okay? Who can relate to that? All right. And so what happens here is they're like, we want bread, we want more food. If you're really the Messiah, you should give us more food. They're trying to power frame him like, hey, you know what, if you're really the Messiah, make some more food for us, all right? And Jesus says, I am the bread of life, which then gets them to accept. So he does not accept their frame. He responds with an intrigue frame, a frame that makes them go, what? An intrigue frame gets you to think differently about the situation. Now, I just want to preface, each one of these scenarios could fall into multiple ones, but I just used them as a specific example, okay? He's going to say, I'm the bread of life. And basically, you, by eating my body and my words or something, you will never be hungry again, is basically what he's saying, which is a really weird thing to say, okay? And the people realize that. They're like, what is this guy talking about? And so now they've accepted the frame. Bread of life, what's that? And he gets to continue that. So an intrigue frame is when somebody comes at you and you say something intriguing, which gets them to buy in. Wait, really? In sales, we would use an intrigue frame Just a simple example is when I knock on someone's door, I would just go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I was just getting off your neighbor Peggy's roof, and she actually had us out because to inspect some hail damage on her roof." And obviously, if there was hail damage on her roof, it's possible that there is one on yours. And that's just the frame that I'm going with, okay? So the intrigue there is, oh, really? So Peggy's going to get a new roof. I should probably get into that. So they're intrigued by why Peggy, who they have rapport with, would call us out, okay? And, oh, she had hail damage? Oh, we live right next door. We probably have hail damage too. So we're intriguing them with a thought, okay? We're telling them something new that is getting them to buy into that, okay? Let me tell you what just happened to me, okay? And they're like, oh, tell me. They're intrigued, okay, about this concept. Jesus uses this, I am the bread of life, and now he is in control of the social situation. All of the frame control is basically you're the one who's in power of the situation, all right? So let's get into analyst frame. Analyst frame is a different one. It's kind of a form of power frame, you could say, but it's basically me saying, I need to analyze this information. Or let me observe the situation and make my own conclusion on what's going on here, okay? So what happens is they're trying to get Jesus in this scenario, which is in Matthew, to say something about paying tax. Hey, you should pay tax, you should not pay tax, all of this, okay? And apparently that was a big deal. Anyways, Jesus is going to go and he's going to say, interesting. So whose face is on the coin? All right, Caesar's face. And then he says, well, in my astute observation, it would make sense to give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to give to God what is God's. Is basically what he's doing is they're asking him a question and he's just looking at the facts and just making a rational decision that anyone could come up with by observing. But first he had to choose to not accept their frame. Okay? They're saying, hey, tell us who should pay taxes. And then he says, let's look at the facts. What do you like? What would make sense here? All right, his face is on it, so that must belong to him. We should give money to him, and we should give to God what is God's. And you can read more into that story, but that is how he answers it. He observes the situation and gives a deduction like a Sherlock Holmes type character would do that. All right, so an analyst frame, when somebody comes at you with something, you can just sit back and say, I'm going to analyze what's going on here and just give an observation about what is happening, okay? So when people try to dominate you psychologically, you're trying to sell something, you can use an analyst frame, okay? Now, moral authority. Moral authority is a great one because not other things trump it. A great example of moral authority is a police officer coming to arrest you. You can't say, like, the moral authority is, hey, man, I'm just here to enforce the law. And you have cocaine in your car, okay? And so you can't say to the cop, well, I'm the boss here. You can't say, well, officer, this isn't cocaine. You can't say, well, let's analyze the situation here. There is cocaine on the seat, but we don't know how it got there, okay? You can't win that situation. The moral authority is, hey, look, cocaine is illegal to have in the car. I'm just here to enforce the law, and I'm sorry, you're going to have to go to jail, okay? Now, there's a time frame as well, which I'll get into, which is deciding at what time. Oh, but I'm late for work. See you, officer. You can't say that. He's like, dude, I don't care about your work. We got to enforce the law here. And then the last one is prize frame. Oh, officer, I'm rich. I can get away with cocaine. And once again, the officer says, I'm sorry, I'm just here to enforce the law. So the moral authority frame wins every time. It's basically the apex frame, but it can't be used always, okay? Moral authority. So basically, what happens in this scenario, Jesus is healing someone on the Sabbath. And on the Sabbath in Jewish culture, you're not supposed to do any work. It's pretty much a day of relaxation and rest. Okay. So they're like, hey, man, you just broke the Sabbath by healing somebody who was sick on the Sabbath. All right. You did work. That's against the law. Okay. And then Jesus says to Jesus uses a moral authority frame. I relieved this person's I relieved this person from bondage, basically bondage to a sickness or something like that. And he says, now when your donkey is tied up, which one of you doesn't untie him on the Sabbath to give him water? Which one of you doesn't relieve him from bondage to give him water? So basically he's saying, I had a moral obligation that supersedes what you think happens on the Sabbath here. He basically is saying, what I did was morally superior to the law, all right, in this specific scenario. And then he also goes and says, you do this too. I did what you do. So it's a power frame where he's basically trapping them on that, okay? So moral authority frame is basically, I have a moral obligation to do this, okay? You can't diss on me because I have a moral obligation to do this, all right? All right, the next one is time frame. Time frame is controlling the time at which event occurs, okay? If somebody's trying to sell you something and you say, oh, I got a meeting in 5 minutes, then like someone's trying to sell you something, you don't want to buy it, and you just say, oh, I got a meeting in 5 minutes, sorry, I gotta go. Okay, so in sales, what we would do is we would actually ahead of time make sure that they have like an hour and a half, like a 90-minute window where they have absolutely nothing going on. So we have already decided that that they have nothing going on. Okay, you said you had nothing going on, so you can't use the time frame, because the time frame is a powerful one, especially in sales. Like, oh, hey, sorry, I got something that's really important, I have to go. Oh my god, my mom's in the hospital, my friend just got in a car accident, I have to go. Okay, what they're doing is they're controlling the time in which a decision is made. All right, they don't want to buy right now, so they're going to control the time in which the decision is made. Now, Jesus uses this. He uses it in a little bit different way, but the general principle here is that time frame is controlling the time window in which a decision is made. This is a way to frame control someone's behavior. So basically he's saying, somebody says something to him like, hey man, I'd love to come follow you, but I just got to take care of my dad real quick. Let's just wait till he dies. I got to take care of him. So I'll come with you, man, but let's just wait till my dad dies. And Jesus basically says, let the dead bury their own dead, which is a 2-part frame. He's basically saying, he could be arguing, you could argue this would fall into prize frame, moral authority, or power frame. But he's basically saying, hey, dude, you have a much more important thing to do. And then he says, whoever is part of the kingdom of heaven, who's pushing the plow, looks back. They're not fit for the kingdom of heaven, which is a power frame, or one could even say a prize frame or moral authority frame, which is saying that the kingdom of heaven is so important. Basically, he says, if you decide to push the plow and you look back, you're not fit to be with us, okay? So he's basically saying the decision needs to be made now. Are you coming or not? And so you can read more into that. That's a really interesting intrigue frame phrase. Let the dead bury their own dead. He's saying that alive people bury dead people, but they're dead, which is an interesting intrigue frame. So I would read about that in Luke if you would like to. But he is controlling the time. He's saying, look, This is how important it is. This is the time in which the decision needs to be made. It's now or never. Okay. He also uses other words that says no one knows when the hour is coming, when the kingdom of heaven is coming. Phrases like that. Here's what happens. He's just saying, hey, nobody knows. It could be right now. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10,000 years from now. He's like, nobody knows. And he's getting you to act with urgency because you don't know when your time or when the end of the world or whatever is coming. Okay? And the last one, I'm using a prize frame for this one. Obviously, prize frame was used in the last one, but prize frame is I'm the prize. Okay? You're insinuating that I am the prize. Let's talk about dating. Let's talk about relationships. Oftentimes, women love to use the prize frame. Well, I'm a prize. You need to buy me flowers and all this stuff in order to take me out on a date. Well, that's just not true. That's just a prize frame. You can go back and say, well, I'm the prize. And oftentimes, just then you can just go and say, really? Because I actually, in my experience, I don't actually go out on any dates with girls unless they buy me flowers first. And I'm being a little bit of a, joking around here, but basically that's the prize frame. The woman's trying to say, I'm the prize, I'm a queen. And then you can respond, well, I'm a king. And doesn't it make sense that the king is more powerful than the queen and more important? And that is a prize frame where I'm just saying I'm more important than you subtly. And I'm letting them know, hey, I'm the important one. I'm not going to chase you. If you want, you're single. I have tons of money. I'm the rich man. You can't, I'm not going to chase you. I already have everything. I'm the one with all the resources. You don't have anything. I'm the king, okay, is just a example of a prize frame where you are saying that I'm better than you. I am more important than you. This has nothing to do with being narcissistic. This has everything to do with just the way you frame yourself. Okay. Now, in this scenario, the rich young ruler comes in and he says, I've done all these things. What do I need to do to get into heaven? And Jesus says, sell all your stuff, sell all your money, give it all away, and follow me. And the rich young ruler walks away sorrowful because he could not do that. But what Jesus is describing here is that I am the prize. He's like, all your wealth means nothing your wealth is absolutely meaningless compared to how important this scenario is. My scenario is so important. The kingdom of heaven is so important that selling all your wealth is less important than this, okay? He's prize framing. He's saying kingdom of heaven is the apex of importance here. Prize frame, okay? So, people are going to use different frames. I want you to be aware of how Jesus, who was incredibly intelligent, used these frames to interact with people and how you can use them in your life. I gave a few examples, but once you understand the concept, okay, power frame, I'm in control, intrigue frame, here's an interesting topic. Why don't you talk about this? Hey, I got to tell you something interesting. Analyst frame, hey, I'm just going to observe here. Moral authority, hey, I have a moral obligation to do this. Time frame, I got to go right now, or you need to make the decision right now. Prize frame, I'm important. What this is more important right now than whatever else you're going to do, okay? You can use these frames in sales, but it's more important to use them in interpersonal relationships. Sometimes you have a relationship with somebody and they're acting out. Well, you know what? You're a bad person because you did that. And guess what? If you accept their frame and defend yourself, no, I'm not a bad person. I go to church. Or whatever it is, you lose, okay? So you can say, interesting, bad person. Aren't you the one that did this? Or, interesting, what makes a person bad? You're now taking the control back, okay? So this is a way to deal with narcissists and selling people people acting out in ego. I want you to have this information and to be the best version of yourself, okay? I'm here to help you have better relationships, and this is one of the videos. If you like this video, share it with a friend. If you hated this video, comment something negative so I can frame control you and make you look stupid. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If you found this information important, share it with a friend, like the video, subscribe, and have a wonderful day.